Item 7, Performance Exceptions Report, and I'll invite Peter Ryan to the table for any introductory remarks, and then Peter will take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. I'm aware of the time issues for the councillors today, so I'll try to just simply hit the highlights of this report. By way of introduction, this is a performance report against organisational performance targets. It's not an update or a year-to-date snapshot. The focus is on exceptions. Now, at times that can blur the fact that we're doing quite well, but we do focus on exceptions in this report. Now, to summarise the level of service situation, it's almost exactly as it was last month and very stable. There have been some upsides, there have been some downsides. They net out to a change of only one level of service over the whole month. So, in short, this is very much what you're probably going to get at year end. The forecasts are both accurate and stable over time, so it's very unlikely you'll see volatility between now and year end. The exceptions attached behind that trend line are very similar to those from last month, in fact the last 3 or 4 months. So I guess that would really mean that at this point there's not a lot to add other than perhaps taking any questions on levels of service exceptions.
That's great. Yeah, thanks very much, Peter. And just noting your comments on stability and expected accuracy of forecasting, and noting that what we are looking at here are exceptions. There are a large number of levels of service which are being delivered and which are on target as expected. So these are just the exceptions that we're looking at here. Let's move to questions. Are there any questions for Peter this morning? Yanni and then Jimmy. Yanni.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the response around the bus travel time information. Although I guess what's concerning in this report is, and I don't remember how many consecutive times in our performance report, and this is on page 28, that we've been told that we're missing our target, both for more people choosing to travel by bus and improving the reliability of passenger transport journey time. But from my memory, this has been a kind of consistent performance measure that we failed, and the memo that we got back seems to indicate that we don't have any clear measurements of journey reliability on our bus priority lanes that we've put in. Is that something that we can address in terms of, I know we've been told that we're going to go back to ECAN, but it seems really hard to understand how we can approve a project with a set of indicators around the benefits and then not have any knowledge if those benefits have been accrued or not.
Before Lynette steps up to respond to the technical stuff, just in terms of the first part of your question about usage, this is one of those few unusual indicators in our suite where there is some joint responsibility. Obviously, I think you're aware that we're responsible for the infrastructure around public transport, but not the services themselves.
Yeah.
So we have a partial stake in this level of service, but not complete control.
Yeah.
So I'd preface everything with that, but the detail of what you've spoken about, Lynette will be able to respond to.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm interested too is like the remedial actions don't seem to go far enough to addressing the concerns that's been raised by not meeting these targets on a pretty consistent basis. It doesn't. The remedial action doesn't seem to address the significance of what's not being met, and it doesn't seem to provide any detail about what's going to be done differently.
So one of the things that's being done differently is we are measuring differently in the future, which is why we've proposed to change the levels of service in the long-term plan. However, I can't get across the details of all this for you today because it was being dealt with by other people in the unit, and I haven't had time to get across it. So I would suggest today that there's a really busy schedule coming, but in the next 2 or 3 months, we get together with ECAN and have a conversation with you, which is then provides a briefing note out of that. That takes this whole process into consideration because there are a whole number of factors that are measured in the success of the PT. Because ultimately what you're asking, Councillor, is about how do we make the PT network succeed. So there's a whole number of factors that relate to that, including patronage, the weather, reliability of the route. There's all sorts of things, and ECAN do a lot of those measurements. We don't do them. We have to get them off ECAN.
So it may well be
But
that
why
this could
does-
result in a briefing at some point.
That's what I would
when,
suggest.
when
and
all
then
of that
from
information has been gathered, realising much of this is ECAN that would be holding and providing that information. The specific question that Yanni's asking, though, if I understand it correctly, is around when we approve, for example, public transport lane, a bus lane, there may well be information provided in the report
that anticipates the saving.
that anticipates the journey time saving.
Yep.
I guess what Yanni's particularly interested in, and I would share that interest, is is the factual information, once we've put the PT lane in place and it's in use, do we get the information reported back, or can we, that shows that the forecasting that we based our decision on in the beginning has either been achieved, has been exceeded, or hasn't been achieved?
And I can't answer that question today, I'm sorry.
But it would come as part of that briefing.
As part of that briefing.
Excellent, thank
The
you.
other thing, Council, you need to understand is many of our bus lanes went in prior to the earthquakes, and there has been substantial changes to networks since the earthquakes. So we just need to understand that and be able to explain that to you as well.
So I guess the question is, if we wanted a key set of specific measures to monitor the performance of the bus priority lanes that we've put in, what do we need to do? Is it just go to
So
ECAN?
we will come back to you as a briefing, because I can't answer it off the cuff today.
Yeah, and that's good. So let's set all of this aside for that future briefing. And if that was, appreciating that people are very busy with long-term plan and other projects at the moment, if that was
Early in the new financial year.
Yeah, so in, a couple of months' time, 3 months' time,
That's right.
and let's just get something into the briefing schedule and let's have the detailed conversation about it with the information in front of us. That sounds good.
Great,
Yep.
thank you.
So can I just check, in the memo, we've been told that ECAN do not currently measure or report on specific bus travel time statistics. So
Sorry, I can't answer to a
So
memo.
can we
I
put
don't
all
know,
of
and I
this into
didn't
that future
write.
briefing?
Yeah,
Sure.
we'll put it all in. I will note all of this.
okay.
Yeah, and Yanni, if you've got specific questions that you wanted to send through that you want covered in that briefing,
That
it
would
would
be
be good to
useful.
raise them now, because then that'll inform the information we need to gather and the content of the briefing on that day.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so Yanni, nothing else?
Oh, so just had a question on the high risk computer. There's a number of references to it. So just looking at page 30, and this is around respond to customer service requests within appropriate timeframes. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand whether we need to do anything more. We've been told that there's a hybrid health check as a work in progress, many changes planned over the next year. Transport issues remain a high priority for fixing. Then there's robustness of B2B linkage. I mean, I'm just trying to have confidence in our technology system, given that this has been, again, something that's been, I think, for about 5 years now. We've been told, we've got problems and we're working on solutions. Is there anything external that we can do to give us confidence that these systems are adequate and sufficient to deal with what we need them to do?
I think I'll have to ask Sarah to step up on that one. We had a discussion about it earlier. Specificity about what you're looking for, though, would be helpful.
Like, is our technology adequate, and why are we constantly having problems with getting the information from it to provide timely information around customer service requests?
Yeah, so as Councillor, as you commented or mentioned, there is a hybrid health check, so there is a project that is looking at the design and redesign of how we have structured our reporting. Complication being our B2B, so when we send our tickets to our contractors and then being able to come back and tell us that it's been done or it's gone onto a work schedule. That work is progressing well, and while we've said middle of next year it should be completed, we're thinking it's actually going to be completed sooner than that. Right. I'm very keen to produce a memo or a briefing about what it was, what we fixed, and what it now looks like. Because all of the issues that you are raising will be corrected.
Right, okay, so, yeah. And just the final question was around the roading condition. obviously had a lot of complaints. This is again page 30. 375 complaints received end of April. Significant increase in complaints October, November, February, March. General but significant upward trend in feedback. And we're looking at why. But just in terms of our acceleration budget, like, we had the acceleration budget from government. I'm just trying to understand, like, we've had some projects that we've just been given a start work notice that are being done, and then we've got others that are going through a really long, arduous process through community boards that still haven't even started. Can you just give me a sense of the capital acceleration budget? How soon can that money be spent to fix and respond to some of these complaints?
I'd suggest that that's a conversation for the next report, because that's part of a project feedback. But very quickly, the Capital Acceleration Regeneration Fund, the acceleration is linked to regeneration and always has been. It is linked to, so the CRAF has 5 particular areas across the city that you guys agreed, that this council agreed as part of the business case that was put to Treasury, which was agreed by Treasury. Road roughness and smoothness is a different, road smoothness or roughness, whichever way you want to look at it, and our resident satisfaction survey is a different, as a level of service, it's a different level of service. The CRAF program will contribute to it, but that is about improving livability in particular areas that were particularly hard hit by the earthquake. What you've done as council and proposed in the long-term plan is to increase our resurfacing budget from 2% to 5%, which is the biggest part of what we're trying to achieve to lift that and improve that that satisfaction score. But that's going to take us time. We haven't lifted to 5% yet. We've got to do that over the next 3 years. We're working on that, and it's part of the legacy of a post-earthquake environment that we're working in.
So, but how are some projects able to be funded through CRAF now or already?
Because they were in the business case and identified in the business case that you as councillors signed off. Right. We then went back out to the community. We've been briefing the community boards that are affected, and I believe your boards had 2 briefings of 2 hours long in each session on the different areas that are being done with CRAF, and the team are looking to keep you up to date as they can with what's going on.
So can we get a list of all the CRAF projects that have currently been?
It's in the business case.
We just got the start work notice yesterday.
15 minutes.
All right. So
so can I get a list of the? It should be easy.
This sounds like something that could easily be either circulated by memo or otherwise simply an email sent with a link to where the information is on the hub. If the information already exists, then that should be reasonably easy to do. Realising that there's obviously been briefings and information made available in the past, but if we can just highlight that as a result of the questions today, I think that would be helpful.
Yep.
There's some projects under CRAF that have already been started, and we're just doing it, right? Like quick wins.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to get a list of what they were.
They're all in the business case. Yes, I'll send you the link to the business case.
If we can just get that link recirculated so that people have got easy access to it, I get the impression that that information will answer the questions that have been asked. If it doesn't, then we can deal with the questions through another channel.
It's helpful in the performance report to actually list what we've done in terms of dealing with some of those issues.
This CRAF is not part of our. I just want to be clear. CRAF is not part of our level of service for road roughness. The measure for level of service of road smoothness is our road roughness measure. God,
yeah, and also realising that this is a performance exceptions report, so we're only reporting on performance and we're only reporting by exception. All right, I'm keen to move on. Tim and then Jimmy. Tim.
Thank you. Just following on with regards to the PT stuff, I think it would be really good, just as a holistic thing, to, from ECAN, have timings of the buses and the bus route that we're going to put the work into for bus lanes, etc., so we can understand where the hold-ups are, where the timings go wrong, etc., and what times of days. They can do all this. They had done it for Colombo Street when they did it. They told us they didn't have that information, but then we got it, so they had done it. And then once the PT is finished and given a bit of time to adjust with the route, to look at where the best advantages have been gained, etc.
Yep.
So that's just for future planning for us.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's.
We'll try and add as much as that as we can to the briefing.
Well, yeah. Well, even if it's not been just for the future, because it would, you know, we've got to do this in partnership at ECAN, but we've got to have some information from them. We're investing a hell of a lot of money in with ratepayers' funds in this,
Agreed.
and it'd just be good to know what the results are and just to work forward on that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so Lynette, you're getting a sense of the kind of information that we really want presented in this briefing that we're looking forward to receiving. Jimmy.
Okay, thank you. I have two questions. One is on page 20, regarding to the multicultural recreation community center. You particularly put on the watch list, and it's a red light. Particularly, you emphasize this one currently being investigated, scope and time frame have not yet been determined. But in item 8, the page 69, but you put on the green light. So one is a red light, the other one is green light. So my question is, what's the rationale? Which one is correct?
I'm sorry, Jimmy, you were a little bit fast for me there in terms of the first page reference.
Page 20.
So you're talking,
Watch list is about the multicultural recreation and the community center.
okay, I'm wondering if that isn't something that Ruth might cover in detail with her PMO report, because this is high-level statistics around the capital program rather than the project-by-project detail that Ruth has. So I think if you don't mind, maybe we could defer that until Ruth's PMO report.
Yep, let's raise that in the next item. That sounds good. All right, Melanie. Oh, further question, Jimmy. Yeah, sure.
But regarding the drinking water supply, I just want to know that I didn't see any update status regarding the Denton Park reservoir repairment to fix reservoir. What's update status? Before, I remember always you mentioned, but here I didn't.
I'm sorry, I can't speak at that level of detail for Helen's program. What I can do is talk to Helen and chase up and come back to you with her response.
So Helen's right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Because the community very concerned at this one. Before Christmas to cover this one, that's a problem. Yeah.
Yes, so it's still a work in progress at Denton, almost finished, and then we'll move on to Sockburn.
Okay.
Yeah, so both reservoirs having those roofs redone.
So when will it be done? When?
I can't give you a firm answer on that. I can send you an email update
Okay,
for both
please
of them
do.
if you like.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Okay,
you.
thank
Cheers.
you. Thank you, Chair.
Melanie.
It was just around the resource consenting on page 31. I know it's under a lot of pressure. I was just, I don't recall about, it mentions discussing the possibility of the timeframe being extended under the RMA that's required so we can better meet targets. Do you know anything about that?
Again, that's at a very technical, operational level I simply can't respond to off the hip. I'll have to go back and ask the manager. I'll talk to John and get your response.
Yeah, so if we can get an offline response on that one, circulated to everybody, that would be great. Thank you. All right, so we've got the report in front of us. We've had questions asked and answered. I'm happy to move that we receive the information provided in the report. Jimmy Chen will second. Any debate? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried.
Would it be all right if I had one postscript to this?
Please do.
Very briefly. Obviously, we're at about 83% looking for 85%. That's a couple of indicators. I just want to make you aware that there's a handful that would have bridged that gap, which are simply hangovers from COVID. Galleries, museums, bus patronage, all these things have been affected and remain affected by lockdown or simply the absence of international visitors. Audit New Zealand won't permit any pro rata. They operate on a first past the post basis. So if ships don't come, tough luck. You don't get to pro rata that. Yep. Had that not been the case, I think we would have been bang on target. I just wanted to make that point.
All right, and when we get to year end, there's probably some commentary that would be a good opportunity just to have a look back at where we've landed, what's happened over the year that's led us to that point. So maybe expanding on the sort of comment that you've just made when we get to the year end numbers.
For sure, thank you.
Great. All right, thank you very much indeed. All right, so now moving on to